The house was pitch black when Elias Vane pulled into the driveway at 3 in the morning. He had returned 3 days earlier than expected. His military deployment had been cut short following a diplomatic resolution that caught everyone off guard. He had hopped on the first available transport from the base. After 16 hours of flying, 2 hours of processing at the barracks, and a 9-hour drive to his home in a rural, mountainous stretch of Virginia, he was bone-tired. However, the thought of seeing his daughter Maya's face had kept him wired for the entire journey. 6 months. That was how long he had been gone this time. Maya was 7 years old now. He had missed her birthday by 2 weeks, and the guilt had eaten at him during every patrol and every mission. But this was his final deployment. He had already submitted his retirement papers. After 12 years in the Army Rangers, Elias was coming home for good. He killed the engine and sat there for a moment, savoring the stillness. There were no mortars and no gunfire, just the crickets and the distant sound of the wind whistling through the pines. The house looked exactly as he had left it. The navy blue shutters Sasha had insisted on installing, the flower boxes that were likely dead now in the late autumn chill, and the tire swing hanging from the old oak in the front yard. Elias grabbed his duffel bag and walked silently toward the front door. He wanted to surprise them. Sasha would likely be fast asleep, but perhaps Maya had had a nightmare and was awake. She used to crawl into bed with them whenever she got scared. The thought made him smile. The door was unlocked. That was the first thing that felt wrong. He had told Sasha 100 times to lock it, especially while he was deployed. Elias pushed it open slowly, his training instinctively taking over. The house was too quiet. It wasn't the peaceful quiet of a sleeping home, it was something else. He moved through the living room. There were dirty dishes in the sink, mail scattered across the counter, and Sasha's purse left on the table. He climbed the stairs, each step careful and deliberate. Their bedroom door was wide open. Sasha was there, sprawled across the bed, in the clothes she had worn that day, one arm hanging off the edge, and an empty wine bottle sitting on the nightstand. Elias's jaw tightened. He headed to Maya's room, pushing open the door, decorated with the princess decals she had picked out before he left. It was empty. The bed was made. Her stuffed bunny, Mr. Hops, which she had slept with since she was 2, was gone. Her shoes weren't by the door. Elias strode back into the master bedroom and shook Sasha's shoulder harder than he intended. She jolted awake, her eyes unfocused. Elias, what? You aren't supposed to be... Where is Maya? Sasha blinked, trying to process his presence. What time is it? Where is our daughter? His voice was flat and controlled, the voice he used when things went south on a mission and panic could get people killed. She's at my mother's house, Sasha muttered. I told you in the email. What email? I didn't get any email. Why is she at your mother's at 3 in the morning? It's 3? Sasha sat up, running her hands through her hair. She's been there since Tuesday. My mother's been watching her while I had some things to handle. Work stuff. Elias stared at his wife. In 12 years of marriage, he had learned how to read people. It was a survival skill. And right now, every instinct he had was screaming that something was wrong. Sasha wouldn't meet his eyes. Her hands were shaking. And it wasn't just from being startled awake. I'm going to go get her. Elias, it's the middle of the night. But he was already heading down the stairs, out the door, and back into his pickup truck. Sasha's mother lived 40 minutes deeper into the mountains. Eudora Sterling was a woman Elias had never liked, and the feeling was mutual. She was a hard woman, cold in a way that had nothing to do with the mountain winters. She ran a sort of retreat center on her property. She called it spiritual counseling. Elias called it a scam. The roads were empty. He pushed the truck harder than he should have, taking the mountain curves at high speed. His hands were steady on the wheel, but his mind was racing at 1,000 miles per hour. Tuesday. Maya had been there since Tuesday. 4 days. Why hadn't Sasha mentioned it in their last video call? Why had she sent their daughter to her mother? Eudora's property was tucked away from the road, a long gravel driveway leading to a sprawling farmhouse. The lights were on. That was the second thing that felt wrong. No one was ever awake at this hour out here. Elias parked and hopped out. The front door opened before he even reached it. Eudora Sterling stood in the threshold, silhouetted by the harsh interior lights. She was a tall woman, thin as a rail, with gray hair pulled into a severe bun. She wore a long nightgown and an expression that might have looked like concern on anyone else's face. On hers, it looked like a calculation. "Elias," Sasha called him. "She said you were coming." "Where is Maya?" "She's asleep. You shouldn't..." He pushed past her. The house smelled of bleach, and something else, something organic and unpleasant beneath it. "Maya, are you going to wake the other children?" Eudora's voice was sharp. Elias stopped. "What other children?" "I run a program here. Troubled kids. Their parents send them to me for discipline and spiritual guidance." He had known about the program, but he had never paid it much attention. Now, looking at Eudora's face, something cold settled in his gut. "Where is Maya?" "She is in the backyard having some reflection time." Elias was moving before she even finished the sentence. He ran through the kitchen and out the back door. The yard stretched into the darkness, bordered by the thick woods. He could see shapes in the moonlight, structures that looked like small sheds or outbuildings. "Maya!" His voice echoed through the trees. A small sound, a whimper, drifted back. He ran toward it, pulling out his phone to use the flashlight. The beam of light caught something that made him stop dead in his tracks. It was a hole in the ground, perhaps 4 feet deep and 3 feet wide. Standing inside, shivering in her pajamas, was Maya. "Daddy?" Her voice was so tiny. Elias was in the hole in seconds, lifting her out. She was freezing, her pajamas soaked with wheat and dew. She wrapped her arms around his neck and wouldn't let go. "I've got you, baby. I've got you." He stripped off his jacket and wrapped her in it. She was shaking violently. "How long have you been out here?" "I don't know. Grandma said..." She started sobbing now, her words barely coherent. "She said bad girls sleep in graves. She said I need to learn. I need to..." A white-hot fury flooded Elias, but he forced himself to hold it back. Maya needed him calm. She needed to be warm and safe. He would deal with Eudora afterward. "Daddy, don't look in the other hole." Maya's whisper cut through his thoughts. "Please, don't look." He turned, and the beam of his flashlight swept across the yard. There, about 20 feet away, was another hole, this one covered with wooden planks. "Maya, I need you to close your eyes, okay? Can you do that for me?" She nodded against his chest, squeezing her eyes shut. Elias carried her toward the house, but stopped by the second hole. He had to know. He had to understand what he was dealing with. Using one hand while holding Maya with the other, he kicked aside the planks. The smell hit him first. Decay, earth, and something chemical. He shone the light down. Bones. Small bones. A skull that was unmistakably human and unmistakably that of a child. Scraps of fabric and something else. A metal tag. Like a military dog tag, with a name engraved on it. Caitlin Lowry. Elias's training kicked in, overriding the horror. This was a crime scene. Multiple crimes. He took 3 photos with his phone, making sure to capture the tag clearly. Then he replaced the boards and carried Maya toward the house. Eudora was waiting in the kitchen with a cup of tea, as if this were a normal visit. "She's being dramatic. It's only been an hour. The cold teaches them. Sit down." Elias's voice could have cut through glass. "Do not move. Do not speak. Do not even think about running, because I will find you." He carried Maya to the truck, started it, and cranked the heater to the maximum. She was still shivering. "Baby, listen to me. You're safe now. I'm going to take you somewhere warm, okay? Can you tell me who Caitlin Lowry is?" Maya's eyes went wide. "You looked. I told you not to look." "I know, honey. I'm sorry. But I need to know who she is. She was here last year. She was bad too. Grandma said she ran away, but..." Maya started crying again. "I heard her screaming one night, and then she was gone. And Grandma said if I was bad, I'd end up like the girls who run away." Elias pulled out his phone and called the only person he knew he could trust. Officer Marcus Reed answered on the 3rd ring. "Reed. Marcus, it's Elias Vane. I need you to get to 4782 Laurel Ridge Road right now. Bring backup. Lots of it. And call the state police." "Elias, I thought you were deployed. What's going on?" "I just found a dead child in a hole on my mother-in-law's property. There might be more." Silence on the other end. Then, "I'm 10 minutes away. Don't hang up." Elias looked toward the house. Eudora was at the window, watching. She didn't look worried. She looked angry. That told him everything he needed to know. She thought she could get away with it because she had done it before. "Marcus, listen carefully. The property owner is Eudora Sterling. She runs some kind of religious discipline program for kids. My daughter was in a hole in her backyard. She said she'd been there an hour, but I don't know if that's true. There's another hole with remains. The victim might be Caitlin Lowry. My God, there might be other children on the property. Eudora said something about other kids. We need to get them out. I'm calling Child Protective Services and the FBI. Elias, you need to get your daughter out of there." "I already did. I'm in my truck with her. But Marcus, I'm not leaving until I know every kid here is safe. Do not go back into that house. That's an order." But Elias was already moving. He turned to Maya. "Baby, I need you to lock the doors and stay in the truck. Keep the heat on. I'm going to get the other kids. Okay? I'll be right back." "Daddy, don't." "I promise I'll be careful. But those kids need help just like you did." He kissed her forehead. "Lock the doors. If anyone other than me or a police officer comes near this truck, honk the horn. Understood?" She nodded, all terrified, but trusting him. Elias walked back to the house. His training was fully engaged now. He wasn't a father anymore. He was a soldier, clearing a hostile building. Eudora was still in the kitchen. She stood up when he entered. "You had no right to..." "Where are the kids?" "They're sleeping." "You're overreacting. That hole is a therapeutic technique. It teaches humility." Elias crossed the distance between them in 2 steps. He didn't touch her, but she stumbled back anyway. "I'm going to ask you one more time. Where are the kids?" "Upstairs. But they're fine. They're here because their parents can't control them. I'm helping them." He was already moving. Upstairs, down a hallway. The first door was locked from the outside. He kicked it open. 3 children, all under the age of 10, were sleeping on thin mats on the floor. No blankets, no heat. The window was barred from the outside. "Wake up!" Elias's voice was gentle, but firm. "My name is Elias. I'm a soldier, and I'm here to help you. The police are on their way. You're going to be okay." They looked at him with those hollow eyes he had only seen in war zones. A small boy spoke up. "Are you taking us home?" "Yes, right now. Let's go." He led them downstairs. Eudora tried to block the door. "You can't do this. Their parents signed contracts." Their parents signed contracts with someone who was burying children in her backyard. "Get out of my way." She didn't move. Elias physically lifted her and set her aside. She weighed nothing. He ushered the 3 children out just as headlights appeared in the driveway. 4 patrol cars, lights flashing. Marcus Reed stepped out first, a burly man in his 50s with a weathered face and kind eyes. He took one look at the children and grabbed his radio. "We need ambulances, multiple minors, possible abuse and neglect." The next few hours were a blur. More police arrived, followed by FBI agents and CPS. They found 6 more children in a locked room in the basement. All were malnourished, bruised, and terrified. All had stories about the holes in the backyard, about the punishments, about children who had run away. They found 3 more graves. Elias sat in his truck with Maya wrapped in a blanket, watching as investigators swarmed the property. Eudora had been arrested, still insisting she was helping troubled children, that the parents had signed contracts, that everything she did was legal discipline. Marcus walked over at dawn. "They're going to need statements from you and Maya. Not today. She needs to be seen by doctors first. But soon." "What about the other graves?" "We've identified one already. Caitlin Lowry. Went missing from the city last year. She was 9. Her parents thought she was at a summer camp." Marcus's face was grim. "The other 2, we're working on it." "Elias, how did you know to come here tonight?" "I didn't. I came back early from deployment. Sasha said Maya was here. I knew something was wrong." "Sasha." Marcus's expression shifted. "We need to talk to her too. Did she know what was going on here?" Elias looked at his friend. "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." Maya shifted against his chest. "Daddy, can we go home now?" "Not to that house, baby. We're going to a hotel, okay? A safe, warm place with room service and movies. And I'm staying with you. I'm never leaving you again. I promise." As Elias drove away, the sun was rising over the mountains. In his rearview mirror, he could see the police lights still flashing, the search teams combing the property. He thought about the parents of those children receiving phone calls right now that would shatter them. He thought about Caitlin Lowry's parents, finally getting answers after a year of not knowing. And he thought about Sasha, asleep in her bed, who had sent her daughter to that house, who knew Eudora ran a discipline program for troubled kids but had sent her anyway. Maya wasn't troubled. She was a sweet, intelligent, happy child. So why had Sasha sent her to Eudora? Elias's hands tightened on the steering wheel. He had been trained to fight enemies overseas, but now he realized the true enemy had been here all along, hiding in plain sight. And he would make sure every person responsible paid for what they had done, starting with his wife. The hotel room was warm and bright, nothing like the cold darkness of Eudora's property. Elias had gotten a suite with 2 beds, and Maya had finally fallen asleep around noon after a hospital doctor came to examine her. Mild hypothermia, bruising, trauma. The doctor had been gentle but thorough, documenting everything, taking photos of the injuries. Evidence. She's going to need therapy, the doctor had said quietly by the door. What she experienced, kids don't just get over that. Now Maya slept, and Elias sat by the window with his laptop, doing the searches he should have done years ago. Eudora Sterling, New Horizons Youth Academy. How had he never looked into this? Because you trusted Sasha, a voice in his head answered. Because she was your wife, and you believed her when she said her mother was helping troubled kids find their way. The search results turned his stomach. The website looked professional. Testimonials from grateful parents, photos of smiling children, Bible verses about discipline and redemption. But when Elias dug deeper into forums and review sites, he found different stories. One parent wrote, "We sent our daughter there for 3 months. When she came back, she wouldn't talk, only cry and have nightmares. We asked what happened, and she said if she told us, they'd put her under the ground. We thought she was being dramatic. Now, I wish we had listened." Another commented, "My son was there. A week before I pulled him out, he'd lost 11 pounds and had marks all over his body. Eudora Sterling said it was spiritual discipline and that we were interfering with his salvation. I called the police, but they said it was a family matter." Elias kept digging. He found a news article from 3 years ago about a county investigation. Child Protective Services had visited the property following a complaint. They had found nothing irregular. The complaint had been dismissed as being from a disgruntled parent. He searched for the name of the investigator, Phyllis Vance. Then he searched for her. She had retired last year. She had bought a house in Florida, a very nice house, too nice for the pension of a county social worker. Elias leaned back. The pieces were starting to fit together, and he didn't like the picture they formed. Eudora had been doing this for years. Multiple children had been hurt, and at least 4 had died. But she had kept operating because someone was protecting her. His phone rang. Xavier Holt's name appeared on the screen. "Brother," Xavier's voice was steady and calm. They had served together for 8 years. "Marcus called me. He said you found something big." "Yeah." Elias looked at Maya. She was still sleeping. "Are you still down south?" "I can be there in 6 hours. Do you need me?" "I need to know who I can trust. Marcus is solid. But there's something bigger here, Xavier. People were protecting what was happening. A social worker took bribes, probably cops too. What do you need? Can you do some digging?" Discreetly. "Eudora Sterling, Phyllis Vance, anyone connected to that property. Follow the money. Elias, how's Maya?" "Alive. That's all that matters right now." "And Sasha?" Elias looked out the window. "I'm going to deal with that today." After hanging up, he sat for a long moment, thinking. Then he opened his email and began to type. Subject, resignation. After 12 years, he was done. Maya needed him more than the army did. His phone buzzed. It was Sasha. "Where are you?" "The police were here. They asked about my mom." "What's going on?" Elias didn't respond. Instead, he opened the photos he had taken of the grave with Caitlin Lowry's remains. He looked at them for a long time, memorizing every detail. Then he opened a new document and started writing down everything he had seen, everything Maya had told him, every detail he could remember. This would go to trial. He needed to be ready. Around 3 in the afternoon, Maya woke up. She looked around the unfamiliar room, panic flaring for a moment. Then she saw Elias and relaxed. "Hey baby, how are you feeling?" "Tired?" She sat up slowly. "Is Grandma in jail?" "Yes." "Good. Maya's voice was hard in a way that broke Elias's heart. 7 years old, and she already knew that some people were evil. "Daddy, are we going back to Mommy?" That was the question, wasn't it? Elias moved and sat on the edge of her bed. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth, okay? Even if you think it might hurt my feelings." Maya nodded. "Mommy knew what Grandma was doing with the holes." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "She said I was being bad, that I wasn't obeying. She said Grandma could teach me how to be good. She took me there Tuesday and told Grandma I needed to learn respect." Elias felt something cold and final to settle in his chest. "What did you do that was so bad?" "I didn't want Aida to eat my vegetables. And I talked back when she told me to clean my room." Maya started to cry. "I didn't mean to be bad, Daddy. I just wanted you to come home." He pulled her into a tight hug, holding her as she sobbed. Above her head, his face was stone. Sasha had sent her daughter to be abused, possibly killed, because she wouldn't eat her vegetables? Because she had talked back? Things you handle with timeouts? Or taking away dessert? Not with a woman who buried children in her backyard. You weren't bad, Maya. Do you hear me? You were being a normal kid. What Mommy did was wrong. What Grandma did was evil. But you didn't do anything wrong. Can I stay with you? You're staying with me forever. I promise. There was a knock on the door. Elias looked through the peephole. Marcus Reed. He let him in. How is she? Marcus asked quietly. She's going to survive. What did they find? Marcus pulled out a notepad. 4 graves so far. Caitlin Lowry, we already knew. The second is Jaden Banks, 10 years old, went missing from Richmond 2 years ago. Parents were told he was at a boarding school. The third is a girl, maybe 8 or 9. We're still working on identification. The fourth, Marcus paused. The fourth is recent, very recent. A boy named Caleb Quinn. He'd only been there a week. How many kids in total went through that place? We're trying to find out. Eudora claims in her contracts that she's had over 100 kids in her program in the last 5 years. Most made it out alive, but we're checking every name against missing persons reports. What about Phyllis Vance? Marcus's expression darkened. How do you know about her? She investigated the place 3 years ago, found nothing. Then she retired and bought a house in Florida she shouldn't be able to afford. The FBI is looking into her now. Elias, there's something else. We found financial records. Eudora was charging parents $50,000 for a 3-month program, most paid in cash. We're talking millions of dollars over the years. Where's the money? Elias thought about that. She had a partner or partners. Someone who made this look legitimate. Someone who kept the authorities from looking too closely. That's what the FBI thinks too. They're checking her phone records now. But Elias... Marcus hesitated. They want to talk to Sasha. Your wife had to know something. She knew. Elias's voice was flat. Maya told me. Sasha took her there Tuesday. Told Eudora Maya needed to learn respect. Marcus looked sick. I'm sorry. Don't be. Just make sure everyone involved goes down. I don't care who they are or what connections they have. All of them. After Marcus left, Elias made a decision. He picked up his phone and called Melody Herrera, Sasha's sister. She answered on the second ring. Elias? Oh my God, Sasha told me you were back. Are you okay? She said something about Mom being arrested. Melody, I need you to listen carefully. Your mother was running a punishment camp. She was torturing children. 4 of them are dead. Maya was in a hole in the backyard when I found her. Silence. Then, what? No, that can't. Mom helps troubled kids. She's strict, but she'd never... I saw the graves myself. The FBI is digging them up right now. Caitlin Lowry, Jaden Banks, 2 others. All kids, under 12 years old. All dead because of what your mother did to them. I can't, Elias. This has to be a mistake. It isn't. And Melody, I need to know something. Did you ever see anything? Anything that made you uncomfortable? Anything that felt wrong? I haven't been to the property in years. Mom and I had a falling out. She said I was raising my kids too soft, that they needed discipline. I told her to stay away from us. Melody's voice was shaking. Sasha still talked to her, though. She said I was overreacting. Sasha sent Maya there 4 days ago. No, Sasha wouldn't. She loves Maya. She sent her to be punished because Maya wouldn't eat her vegetables and talked back. Another long silence. When Melody spoke again, her voice was different, harder. Where is Maya now? With me. Safe. Keep her away from Sasha. I mean it, Elias. I love my sister. But if she knew what Mom was doing and sent Maya anyway... Melody took a shaky breath. What can I do? How can I help? Elias looked at his sleeping daughter again. Just tell the truth when they ask. Everything. Don't protect anyone. I won't, Elias. I'm so sorry. If I had known, just make sure it counts for something now. After hanging up, Elias opened his laptop again. Xavier had sent an encrypted email with preliminary findings. Eudora's financial records showed payments to several individuals. One name stood out, Arthur Sterling. Listed as Eudora's brother, he lived in the city, worked as... Elias stared at the screen. Arthur Sterling was a county judge. The next morning, Elias took Maya to a safe house, arranged by Marcus. It was a small apartment above a bookstore in town, owned by a retired cop who owed Marcus a favor. Maya would stay there with an officer named Jeanette, while Elias dealt with what was coming. I don't want you to go, Maya said, clutching Mr. Hops. I'll be back tonight, I promise. Jeanette is nice, and you'll be safe here. The door has 3 locks, and there's a police officer downstairs. Okay. Maya nodded, but she looked small and scared. Elias knelt to her level. Baby, I need to make sure the people who hurt you can't hurt anyone else. That's what I'm going to do today. Can you be brave for me? Are you going to bring Mommy? Elias's jaw tightened. Do you want to see Mommy? Maya thought about it. Then she shook her head. Not yet. Maybe never. Okay. You don't have to see anyone you don't want to see. He kissed her forehead and left with a heavy heart. But as he drove through the town, the heaviness turned into a cold, focused fury. He had targets now. Eudora was in jail. But she was just the beginning. Arthur Sterling, Phyllis Vance, anyone else who had enabled this nightmare. He arrived at his house at 9 in the morning. Sasha's car was in the driveway. He sat for a moment, bracing himself, then walked in. Sasha was in the kitchen, looking haggard. She hadn't slept. When she saw him, she stood up quickly. Elias. Finally. The police won't tell me anything. They took Mom. They're saying she... But it's ridiculous. You have to tell them... Where's Maya? I don't know. I assumed she was with you? Elias, what's going on? Why are you looking at me like that? I'm trying to decide if my wife is stupid or evil. Sasha's face went white. What? You sent our daughter to a woman who tortures children, who has murdered at least 4 that we know of. You took her there Tuesday and told Eudora she needed to learn respect. I didn't. It's not like that. Mom's program is strict, but it works. It helps troubled kids. Maya is not troubled. Elias's voice cracked like a whip. She's 7 years old. She didn't eat her vegetables. That isn't troubled, Sasha. That's normal. She was getting out of control. Talking back, not obeying. So you sent her to be buried alive in a hole in the ground? Sasha's mouth opened and closed. No, Mom would not. I pulled Maya out of that hole myself. It was 2 a.m, and it was deathly cold. She'd been standing in mud and freezing water for over an hour, crying, terrified. She told me if I looked in the other hole. Elias stopped, forcing himself to stay calm. There was a dead child in the other hole, Sasha. A 9-year-old girl named Caitlin Lowry. Her bones were still there. No. Sasha sat down heavily. No, that's not possible. Mom said the kids who run away from the program sometimes spread rumors. But did you ever visit? Did you ever actually see what she was doing? Silence. Answer me. I trusted her. Sasha's voice was rising. She's my mother. She said the program was tough but effective. That sometimes kids lie to get away. Elias stared at his wife. When did you send Maya there? Tuesday? I already told you. Why Tuesday, specifically? Sasha hesitated. I was having a bad week. She was refusing to do her homework, making a mess, talking back. I was stressed with work, and I couldn't handle it. So I called Mom. You couldn't handle it. So you sent our daughter to a torture camp. It's not a torture camp. She helps kids. 4 dead kids say otherwise. Elias pulled out his phone and showed her one of the photos of the graves. Sasha looked at it and turned green. She ran to the sink and threw up. When she came back, wiping her mouth, her face was ashen. I didn't know, Elias. I swear to you, I didn't know. But you suspected something was wrong, didn't you? No, Melody cut your mother off years ago. Said she was too harsh on kids. You kept Maya away from Eudora most of the time. Why? Sasha's hands were shaking. Mom could be intense. I thought limited exposure was fine. That a few days at a time would teach Maya discipline without what? Without breaking her? The words came out as a whisper. Elias felt something inside him snap. You knew she could break our daughter? You knew your mother was dangerous. And you sent Maya there anyway. I thought I could control it. I told Mom to be gentle, to just scare her a little. You can't be a little evil, Sasha. You can't torture someone a little. Elias was shouting us now. Maya is traumatized. She has hypothermia and bruises, and she doesn't trust anyone. She asked if she has to see you again, and I didn't know what to tell her because her own mother sent her to hell. Sasha was sobbing. I didn't want this to happen. I was just so tired. You weren't here, and she was so difficult. And I thought, you didn't think. That's the problem. Elias's voice turned cold. Pack your things. You're leaving. This is my house too. I don't care. You're leaving today. And if you fight me on this, I will make sure everyone knows what you did. Your job, your friends, everyone. I'll tell them you sent your daughter to a woman who murdered children. I have rights. Maya had rights too. And Caitlin Lowry and Jaden Banks and Caleb Quinn had the right not to be buried alive. Elias stepped closer. This is what's going to happen. You're going to talk to a lawyer. You're going to agree to give me full custody. You're going to stay away from Maya unless she asks to see you. And you're going to cooperate fully with the FBI's investigation into your mother. The FBI? Did you think this was just going to go away? Your mother murdered children, Sasha. For money. Lots of money. And someone helped her cover it up. The FBI wants to know who. So you're going to tell them everything you know about her business, her contacts, her finances, everything. I don't know anything about that. Then you better start remembering. Because if you don't cooperate, they're going to charge you as an accomplice. Sasha's face crumbled. I didn't know, Elias. I swear on my life. I didn't know she was killing kids. But you knew she was hurting them, and you didn't care. Elias turned toward the door. You have until tomorrow to get out. If you're still here when I come back with Amaya, I'm calling the police. He left her there, crying in the kitchen of the house they had bought together 8 years ago. The house where they brought Maya home from the hospital. The house where he thought they were building a life. It was all ashes now. Elias went to meet Xavier at a diner on the outskirts of town. His friend was already there with his laptop open, looking tired. You look terrible, Xavier said. I feel worse. What did you find? Xavier pulled out a folder. Arthur Sterling, Eudora's brother, has been a county judge for 15 years. He handles juvenile cases, family court. Guess what happens when parents complain about Eudora's program? Let me guess. The cases get dismissed. Exactly. I found 6 complaints in the last 5 years. All went to Arthur's court. All dismissed as family disputes or unfounded allegations. 3 of those children are now missing. Elias's hands clenched. He knew. It gets better. Phyllis Vance, the social worker, she's Arthur's ex-wife. They divorced 10 years ago. But I checked their financial records. She's been receiving regular payments from a company called New Horizons Holdings. Guess who owns that company? Arthur and Eudora. 50-50 each. The company has been collecting the fees from parents, laundering the money through various accounts, and then paying out to Eudora, Arthur, and Phyllis. We're talking $3 million in 5 years. Elias leaned back. So Arthur provides legal protection. Phyllis handles any state investigations, and Eudora runs the operation. That's the theory. The FBI is putting the case together now. But Elias... Xavier's expression turned serious. There might be more people involved. I found payments to a consulting firm that doesn't seem to exist. And there are gaps in the financial records. Money going out that we can't trace. Who else could be involved? I don't know yet. But someone with enough influence to make sure there were no real investigations. Someone who could lean on the local police, maybe even state. Elias thought about that. I need to talk to Marcus. See if he knows anyone who seemed too interested in shutting down questions about Eudora. Be careful. If there are dirty cops involved, you don't know who to trust. I trust Marcus. Yeah, but he trusts everyone on his force. Xavier closed his laptop. Elias, you need to let the FBI handle this. You have Maya to think about. I am thinking about Maya. I'm thinking about making sure everyone who hurt her pays. Everyone who allowed it. Everyone who looked the other way while children died. Elias held his friend's gaze. Would you walk away? Xavier sighed. No, but I'd be smart about it. And I'd watch my back. That's why I called you. They spent the next 2 hours going through documents. Elias was learning how to read financial records the way he had learned how to read topographic maps in the Army. Looking for patterns, anomalies, anything that didn't fit. And there were things that didn't fit. Large cash withdrawals from the company accounts every month. Always on the 15th. Always the same amount. $10,000. Going back 3 years. Protection money, Elias suggested. Maybe they're paying someone off. Could be bribes. Or blackmail. Elias's phone rang. Marcus Reed. Speak. We have something. Eudora is talking. She's trying to get a deal. She claims she was coerced, that someone forced her to keep the program going even when she wanted to stop. She's likely lying. Probably. But her lawyer says she has proof. Names of people involved. She wants immunity in exchange for testifying. Don't give it to her. It's not my call. It's the FBI and the prosecutors. But Elias, she mentioned Sasha. She said your wife knows more than she's saying. Elias closed his eyes. What did she say exactly? That Sasha helped recruit some of the families. That she identified kids who needed correction and recommended the program to their parents. Eudora claims Sasha received a commission for every referral. The diner seemed to tilt. How much? $5,000 per child. Elias disconnected and stared at his phone. Sasha had sent Maya to Eudora, but according to Eudora, she had also sent other people's children for money. Xavier was watching him. What is it? Sasha wasn't just a victim of her mother's manipulation. She was part of the whole thing. Yeah. Elias stood up. I need to go somewhere. Where? To have another conversation with my wife. And this time, she's going to tell me the whole truth. He found her at her sister's house. Melody opened the door, her face hard. She's in the kitchen. And Elias, whatever you're going to do, she deserves it. Sasha was sitting at Melody's table with a cup of coffee. She looked up when Elias entered, and her face paled. I was just leaving. Sit down, Sasha. She sat. Melody stayed in the threshold, arms crossed. Elias leaned against the counter. The FBI talked to your mother. She's trying to get a deal. She said you helped recruit families, that you got $5,000 for every kid you sent her. Is it true? Sasha's silence was answer enough. How many? Elias's voice was deadly quiet. I don't know. Maybe 20? Over 3 years? 20 kids. You sent 20 kids to be tortured for money. It wasn't supposed to be torture. Mom said it was a tough love program, that the kids needed discipline. The parents were desperate. So, you exploited desperate parents and traumatized their children for $100,000. Melody made a sound of disgust. Sasha, what the hell is wrong with you? You don't understand. We needed the money. Elias was deployed. His salary wasn't enough. And I had debts from before we got married. We had enough, Elias roared. We had a house, food, everything we needed. You're telling me you sold children for what? A new car? A vacation? Sasha was crying again. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't think anyone would get hurt. Mom said it was safe. 4 children are dead. 4? How is that safe? Elias was shaking with rage. Did you know about the graves? No. I swear I didn't know about that. When Mom told me about kids running away, I believed her. I thought they just left. You thought troubled kids just walked away into the mountains and their parents didn't care? You didn't think that was suspicious? Sasha had no answer. Elias pulled out his phone. The FBI is going to want to talk to you. Yeah, the families you recruited are going to want answers. And I'm going to make sure every single person knows what you did. Please? Sasha reached out for him. Please, Elias. I made a mistake. I was stupid and greedy, and I'm so sorry. But I'm still Maya's mother. I love her. You sent her to a torture camp for $5,000. No, I didn't take money from Maya. She's my daughter. I just thought, you thought you could get away with it one more time. You thought she'd come back scared and straightened out. And you'd keep sending other people's kids for cash. Elias backed away from her outstretched hand. Stay away from us, both of us. Don't call, don't text, don't try to see Maya. If I see you near her, I'll have you arrested. You can't keep me from my daughter. Watch me. You're about to be charged with child endangerment, conspiracy, and likely trafficking. By the time this is over, you'll be lucky if you aren't in prison. Elias, the only thing keeping you out right now is that you're cooperating with the FBI. Elias turned to the door. Melody, thanks for being honest. I'm sorry your family is falling apart. I'm sorry I didn't see this coming, Melody said quietly. I should have pressed harder, stayed in touch with Mom. Maybe I could have, This isn't your fault. Don't blame yourself for the evil of others. As Elias drove away, his phone rang. Unknown number. Elias Vane. Yes, this is Special Agent Julian Marino from the FBI. I need you to come in for an interview today if possible. I can be there in 20 minutes. Good. And Mr. Vane, bring your lawyer. We're going to be talking about serious charges. Elias's hand tightened on the wheel. Against who? Everyone. We're building a case under the RICO Act. Organized crime, conspiracy, child trafficking, murder. This is bigger than your mother-in-law. We're going after every person involved. Good. I should warn you, your wife is a target. We believe she was complicit in the recruitment of children for the program. If she cooperates, we might be able to reduce the charges. But she's looking at prison time. I don't care what happens to her. Just make sure you catch everyone. We will. But Mr. Vane, watch your back. The people involved in this have money and connections. They won't go down easily. After hanging up, Elias made one final call to a lawyer friend from his unit, who now worked at a big firm in the city. Thomas Pena. Thomas, it's Elias Vane. I need help. I need the best family lawyer you know, and I need someone who can handle a federal case. My God, Elias, what happened? How much time do you have? Start talking. As Elias explained the whole nightmare, he felt something shifting inside him. The rage was still there, burning hot and pure, but beneath it was something colder, something calculating. The army had taught him how to fight, how to plan, how to execute complex operations against entrenched enemies. He had led missions in some of the most hostile territories on Earth. And now, he was going to use every skill he had to destroy the people who had hurt his daughter. Not just Eudora, not just Sasha. Everyone, every person who had looked the other way, taken a bribe, or allowed the torture and murder of children. They thought they were safe because they had money and connections, because they had gotten away with it for years. They were wrong. Elias Vane was coming for them. And he didn't lose. The FBI offices were cold and sterile, all fluorescent lights and beige walls. Elias sat across from Agent Moreno and another agent, a woman named Lowry. Appropriate name, given what he had found. I'm Agent Sarah Lowry, she said, as if reading his mind. Caitlin was my niece. Elias's expression didn't change, but inside, he felt a sharp pang of sympathy. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you. I want you to know this is personal for me. I'm going to make sure every person responsible pays, starting with Eudora Sterling. Moreno pulled out a recorder. Mr. Vane, we need to record your statement. Tell us everything that happened from the moment you arrived home. Elias did, every detail. Finding Maya in the hole, the other graves, Sasha's confession about sending her there, the evidence of financial payments. He didn't hold anything back. When he finished, Moreno leaned back. Your wife claims she didn't know about the deaths. Do you believe her? I don't know. Maybe she was willfully ignorant. But she knew the kids were being hurt, and she kept sending them anyway. For money. Yeah, Agent Lowry spoke up. We've identified 17 families your wife referred to Eudora's program. Of those 17 kids, 3 are dead. 4 are still missing. The others? We're interviewing them now. The stories are consistent. Extreme physical punishment, food deprivation, psychological abuse. One boy was kept in a hole for 3 days. Elias felt sick. Where are the families now? We're tracking them down. Most thought their kids were at a legitimate boarding school. Some knew it was tough, but they thought that's what their kids needed. A few... Moreno paused. A few seemed to have known exactly what was going on and didn't care. What happens to them? Depends on what we can prove. Child endangerment at a minimum. If we can show they knew kids were dying and sent theirs anyway, we're looking at conspiracy to commit murder. And Sasha? Your wife is cooperating. She's given us names, details on the financial structure, information on Arthur Sterling's involvement. In exchange, we're recommending reduced charges, but she's still looking at 5 to 10 years. Elias nodded. He felt nothing about it. No satisfaction, no regret. Just a void where his marriage used to be. What about Arthur? He asked. Marcus's jaw tightened. That's where it gets complicated. Arthur Sterling is a sitting judge with a lot of friends. We need an airtight case before we move against him. We're building it, but it takes time. How much time? Weeks? Months? Children died while you build your case. I know. Moreno's frustration showed. But if we move too fast and he gets off on a technicality, he escapes everything forever. I'm not going to let that happen. Agent Lowry put a hand on Moreno's arm, calming him. Then she looked at Elias. We're going to get him, I promise. But we have to do this right. What can I do? Nothing. Stay out of it. Focus on your daughter. Let us handle the investigation. Elias didn't respond to that. He had no intention of staying out of it. After the interview, he met with Thomas Pena and the family lawyer Thomas had recommended, a sharp woman named Margaret Vance. They sat in a conference room and planned. The good news is you'll get custody, Margaret said. With Sasha facing criminal charges and admitting to child endangerment, no judge will give her custody. The question is whether she gets visitation. Not on my watch. Elias, Thomas's voice was gentle but firm. Let Margaret handle the legal strategy. If you push too hard, it could backfire. Sasha sent our daughter to be tortured for money. There is no scenario where she deserves to see Maya. I agree, Margaret said, and that's the argument we'll make. But we have to follow the process. File for divorce, file for custody. Document everything. Build a case so overwhelming that no judge can rule against you. How long? The divorce will take months. Custody could be faster given the circumstances. I'll file emergency motions tomorrow. Do it. After they left, Elias sat in his truck, thinking. The FBI was building their case. His lawyers were building theirs. Everyone was following the process, playing by the rules. But Elias wasn't bound by the same rules. He was a civilian now, a father protecting his daughter. And sometimes, justice couldn't wait for the courts. He pulled out his phone and called Xavier. I need you to do something for me. It's not legal. I figured as much. What do you need? Arthur Sterling. I need everything on him. Phone records, financial records, emails. Everything that proves what he did. The FBI is already getting that through warrants. I don't want to wait for warrants. I want it now. Silence on the other end. Then, you know what you're asking? Yeah. If we get caught, we won't get caught. You taught me how to do this in Afghanistan, remember? We're just applying those skills here. Another pause. When do you want to start? Tonight. They met at Xavier's motel room with a laptop and equipment that was definitely not civilian grade. Xavier had connections from his days in the military, people who specialized in electronic intelligence. Arthur's security is decent, but it's not top tier, Xavier said, typing away. Standard home Wi-Fi, protected with a password. I can crack it remotely, but it'll take a few hours. Do it. What about his phone? Harder. If he's smart, he's using encrypted messaging. But guys like him always think they're untouchable. They get sloppy. While Xavier worked, Elias researched. Arthur Sterling had been a judge for 15 years. Before that, a prosecutor. Married twice, divorced twice, no children. His house was a modest colonial in a good neighborhood. Not the kind of place you'd expect from someone who had made $3 million off the child trafficking. He's hiding the money somewhere, Elias said. Offshore accounts. The Caymans, Switzerland, places the FBI can trace. But it takes time. We don't have time. Xavier looked at him. What's the plan here, Elias? Let's say we get everything. What are you going to do with it? Make sure he can't escape justice. Make sure if the FBI's case falls apart, he still goes down. How? I haven't figured that part out yet. They worked until 3 in the morning. By then, Xavier had access to Arthur's home network, his email, and his cloud storage. What they found made Elias's blood run cold. Spreadsheets listing every child who had passed through Eudora's program. Detailed notes on which ones were problematic. Invoices for disposal services. Emails discussing inventory, reduction, and minimizing exposure. These people had reduced children to lines in a ledger. One email from Arthur to Eudora, dated 6 months ago. The Lowry girl is asking too many questions. Handle it, Eudora's response. Resolved. No loose ends. Caitlin Lowry had died because she asked questions. Send me all of this, Elias said. Encrypted. Multiple backups. What are you going to do? Insurance. If anything happens to me, if the FBI's case falls apart, if these people find a way to escape, this goes public. Every news outlet, every social media platform, every parent whose kids went through that program. I'll make sure the whole world knows what they did. Xavier nodded. You're playing a dangerous game. They played a dangerous game with the lives of children. Now, it's my turn. Over the next week, Elias built his case. Not for a courtroom, but for the court of public opinion. He contacted journalists, gave them background on the story, without revealing his illegal gathering of evidence. He connected with parents whose kids had passed through the program. He documented everything. Maya was slowly improving. Therapy was helping. She could talk about what had happened without crying now. The nightmares were less frequent, but she still jumped at unexpected noises and refused to be alone in a room. She's going to heal, the therapist said, but it will take time, and she'll always have scars. Elias knew about scars. He had plenty of them from his time in the service, the visible ones from shrapnel and bullets, and the invisible ones from seeing friends die. You don't get over trauma, you learn to live with it. But he'd be damned if Maya had to live with it while the people responsible walked free. The breakthrough in the case came from an unexpected source. One of the families Sasha had referred reached out to Elias directly. Raphael Thorne, a single father whose son had been through Eudora's program 2 years ago. My son came back changed, Raphael said, sipping coffee. Quiet, scared. He doesn't talk about what happened, but he has nightmares. He screams about holes and graves. I didn't know what it meant until I saw the news. Did you know what the program was before you sent him? Raphael looked ashamed. I knew it was tough. Your wife said it was tough love, that my son needed discipline. She showed me testimonials from other parents saying their kids came back better. I was desperate. Noah was acting out after his mother died, and I didn't know how to help him. You paid Eudora directly? I paid a consulting firm, Behavioral Solutions. They handled all the paperwork. Elias's pulse quickened. That was the name Xavier had found. The firm with no real office, no employees, just a P.O. box and a bank account. Do you still have the paperwork? Yeah. Why? Because I think that firm is the key to everything. He was right. With Raphael's documentation, they traced Behavioral Solutions to a lawyer in the city, a high-power guy who specialized in setting up shell corporations for wealthy clients. The lawyer, when confronted by the FBI, claimed attorney-client privilege. But Elias had another approach. He showed up at the lawyer's office unannounced. Bennett Prescott, the plaque said. Elias walked past the secretary and into Prescott's office. Excuse me, you can't, the secretary protested. It's fine, Elias said, closing the door behind him. Prescott was a sleek man in an expensive suit, in his 50s with the kind of tan that comes from ski trips and golf courses. He looked up, annoyed. Who are you? Elias Vane. My daughter was tortured by one of your clients. You set up the financial structure that allowed them to hide millions of dollars from child trafficking. Prescott's expression became carefully neutral. I don't know what you're talking about. Elias pulled out a folder and dropped it on the desk. Behavioral Solutions, New Horizons Holdings, 3 other shell companies in the Caymans. You created them all, for Eudora Sterling and Arthur Sterling. You helped launder money from the torture and murder of children. I create legal corporate structures for clients. What they do with those structures is not my responsibility. But you knew. You had to know. No one sets up that many shell companies for a small religious retreat center unless they're hiding something. Prescott leaned back, and even if that were true, and I'm not saying it is, attorney-client privilege protects my communications with clients. It doesn't protect you from being an accomplice to murder. I haven't murdered anyone. No, you just made it possible for others to do it and get away with it. For a fee. Elias leaned forward. How much did they pay you? 10%? 20? How much is a dead child worth to you, Juan? Out of my office. The FBI is going to tear your practice apart. Every client, every account, every document, and when they're finished, you're going to prison right alongside the Sterlings. I doubt that. I have the best lawyers in the state. Elias smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. You know what's funny? I found something interesting while I was researching you. Your son, Bennett Prescott Jr., 15 years old, troubled kid from what I hear, been in and out of therapy, some minor legal trouble. Prescott's face paled. Don't you dare. I'm not threatening your son. I'm just saying, you helped Eudora Sterling hide the fact that she was torturing troubled kids. Your son is a troubled kid. How would you feel if someone sent him to a place like that? If he ended up in a hole in the ground, crying for his father, wondering why you let it happen? You son of a... Think about it. Then think about whether protecting your clients is worth the price of protecting your own son from the same fate. Because people like Eudora don't stop. They just find new victims. Elias stood up. The FBI will be here tomorrow with warrants. You can cooperate and maybe keep your law license, or you can fight and lose everything. Your choice. He left Prescott sitting there, shaking. The next day, Prescott called the FBI. He wanted to make a deal. In 48 hours, the whole financial structure collapsed. Prescott provided documents showing how the money flowed. Parents paid Behavioral Solutions, which took a commission and passed the rest to New Horizons Holdings, which distributed to Eudora, Arthur, and Phyllis. There were also payments to two other people, a sheriff's deputy and a state CPS supervisor. The deputy, a man named Carlos Reed, no relation to Marcus, had been responding to complaints about Eudora's property for years. He had always filed reports saying there was no evidence of wrongdoing. The supervisor, Christina Vance, had been the one to shut down investigations before they could go anywhere. The FBI arrested them all in coordinated raids. Elias watched the news coverage with Maya on his lap. "That's Grandma," Maya said, pointing to the footage of Eudora being led into a courthouse in handcuffs. "Yeah, baby? She looks smaller on TV, doesn't she? Evil people always look like that when they get caught." The trial wouldn't happen for months, but the media coverage was immediate and brutal. Every news outlet ran stories about the torture camp, the Chamber of Horrors in the mountains. Families of the victims were interviewed. The bodies of the 4 murdered children were given proper burials. Sasha's face was plastered across the headlines, "Mother who sold children for profit." She tried to claim she was a victim too, that Eudora had manipulated her, but the evidence was too damning. The FBI had recordings of her conversations with parents, promoting the program, describing how effective it was, never mentioning the abuse. Elias filed for divorce and emergency custody. The hearing was brief. Margaret Vance presented evidence of Sasha's involvement in the trafficking ring, her admission to child endangerment, and Maya's statement that she didn't want to see her mother. The judge, not Arthur Sterling, who had been suspended pending his own trial, awarded Elias full custody with no visitation for Sasha. Mrs. Vane has demonstrated a pattern of prioritizing money over the safety of her daughter, the judge said. Until she can demonstrate rehabilitation and remorse, she represents a danger to the minor. Sasha didn't fight it. She was too busy negotiating her own plea deal. 5 years in federal prison in exchange for testifying against Arthur and the others. But Elias wasn't satisfied. Yes, they were all going to prison. Yes, justice was being served. But it wasn't enough. These people had destroyed lives. They had murdered children. They had made Maya stand in a hole, crying for her father. They needed to suffer as their victims had suffered. So Elias started planning. Not a physical attack. He wasn't going to throw away his freedom and leave Maya without a father. But there were other ways to make people suffer. Ways to ensure they lost everything, not just their freedom. He started with Arthur Sterling. The judge's trial was scheduled for 3 months away. He had been released on bail, $1 million he had paid easily. He was living in his house, wearing an ankle monitor, pretending to be confident. Elias started following him. Not obviously. He knew how to do surveillance from his days in the army. He learned Arthur's routine. Grocery store on Tuesdays, lunch at the same diner every Thursday, golf on Saturday mornings. And he noticed something interesting. Arthur had late-night visitors. People would come to his house, park down the street, and walk up. They'd stay for 20 minutes or an hour, then leave. Elias started photographing them, tracking their plates, building a network. One of them was a state senator. Another was the CEO of a pharmaceutical company. A third was a local businessman who owned half the real estate in town. What connected them? Elias dug deeper and found the answer. All had sent their children to Eudora's program. All had paid premium prices, $50,000 or more. All had gotten their children back, straightened out. But these weren't troubled kids. These were kids who had discovered their parents' secrets. Kids who had found evidence of affairs, embezzlement, abuse. Kids who had threatened to tell. Eudora's program wasn't just about discipline. It was about breaking children who knew too much. Elias felt sick. This was bigger than he had thought. It wasn't just child abuse. It was an organized criminal conspiracy to silence witnesses. And Arthur was at the center of it. He needed proof. Real, admissible proof that would hold up in court. So he did something he never thought he'd do. He became what he had fought against his entire military career. He broke into Arthur's house. It wasn't hard. Arthur's security was basic, designed to stop opportunistic burglars, not someone with military training. Elias waited until Arthur was out for his Thursday lunch, bypassed the alarm, and entered through a basement window. He had 30 minutes. He used them well. Arthur kept files in his home office. Physical files, the old-fashioned kind that can't be hacked. Elias photographed everything. Correspondence with the parents, contracts, documentation of what the children had known and how the program had handled it. One file was labeled Permanent Solutions. Inside were death certificates for 3 children, all listed as accidents or suicides. All kids who had been through the program. All kids whose parents were at those late-night meetings. Elias felt his hands shaking as he photographed them. These people had murdered their own children to keep secrets. He found one more thing. A ledger showing payments from Arthur to local news outlets. Payments to kill stories. Payments to reporters to bury information. Payments to keep the whole operation quiet. Elias finished with 5 minutes to spare. He reset everything exactly as he had found it, climbed out the window, and drove away. That night, he made copies of everything. He sent encrypted files to 3 different people: Xavier, Thomas Pena, and Agent Moreno at the FBI. The note read, "If anything happens to me, release this to every news outlet in the country." Then he went home and held Maya as she slept, thinking about how close he had come to losing her. How many other parents had lost their children to these monsters? The next day, he received a call from an unknown number. "Mr. Vane, this is Lawrence Bishop. I represent Arthur Sterling. My client wishes to speak with you. Tell your client to go to hell. Mr. Vane, please. It's not a threat. My client wants to apologize, explain his side of things. He's prepared to offer a settlement in exchange for..." "There is no settlement. Your client is going to prison for the rest of his life. If you would just listen." Elias hung up. 10 minutes later, his phone rang again. A different number. "Mr. Vane," a woman's voice, smooth and professional. "My name is Ingrid Holt. I'm calling on behalf of a group of concerned citizens who wish to resolve this matter discreetly. We are prepared to offer you $5 million in exchange for your cooperation in..." "Who are you?" "I represent the families of several children who attended Mrs. Sterling's program. They are very sorry for what happened to your daughter. They want to make amends. By paying me to shut up? By compensating you for your trauma and ensuring this matter is resolved in a way that doesn't harm innocent people. Innocent people. Your clients murdered their own children. That is a serious accusation, Mr. Vane. One with no proof. And making such accusations publicly could be considered defamation." Elias laughed. "Seriously? You're threatening me with a defamation suit after what you people did? We are offering you a generous settlement, Mr. Vane. I suggest you think carefully before rejecting it." "I don't need to think. The answer is no. Your clients are going to be exposed. Every single one of them. And when I'm finished, everyone will know what they did. He hung up and immediately called Moreno. They just tried to buy me off. $5 million. Who was it? Someone named Ingrid Holt. Said she represents families of kids who went through the program. They want me to stay quiet about what I found. Moreno was quiet for a moment. Elias, what did you find, exactly? I can't tell you that. Not officially. But hypothetically, if someone had evidence that Arthur's clients murdered their own children to keep them quiet about crimes, what would the FBI do with that information? Hypothetically, we'd need that evidence to prosecute. And if that evidence was obtained illegally, then it wouldn't be admissible in court. But it might point us toward legal ways to get the same information. Check Arthur's home office. There's a filing cabinet, bottom drawer labeled Permanent Solutions. You might find something interesting. We need a warrant for that. Then get one. I'm sure you can find probable cause. Elias, just get the warrant, Moreno, before someone makes those files disappear. Moreno must have moved fast, because that afternoon, FBI agents executed a search warrant on Arthur's house. Elias watched from down the street as they carried out boxes of documents. His phone rang. Moreno, how did you know about those files? I didn't. I just had a hunch. Elias, what we found, my God, these people were killing their own kids. I know. We're going to need you to testify about the whole program. What happened to Maya? Everything. I'll do whatever it takes. Good. Because we're about to charge 15 more people. This is going to be the biggest child trafficking case in the history of the state. Make it count. It will. But Elias, watch your back. These people have a lot to lose. They might do something desperate. Elias thought about that after he hung up. Desperate people were dangerous. But he wasn't worried about himself. He was worried about Maya. He called Xavier. I need you to do something for me. Name it. I need you to take Maya somewhere safe. Outside the state. Somewhere these people can't find her. You think they'd go after her? I think they've already killed multiple children. I'm not taking any chances. I know a place. My cousin has a ranch up in Montana. Middle of nowhere. No one would think to look there. Can you leave tomorrow? I'll pick her up at dawn. That night, Elias explained to Maya that she was going on a trip. It's like a vacation. Uncle Xavier is going to take you to see horses and mountains. You'll be safe there. Why can't you come? I have to finish something here. But I'll come get you as soon as I'm done. I promise. Is it about Grandma? Yes, baby. It's about making sure she and the people who helped her can't hurt anyone else. Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Daddy, are you going to do something bad? What do you mean? Like something you shouldn't do to catch the bad people? Elias knelt to her level. Sometimes adults have to make tough choices. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure those choices are the right ones. Okay, but promise you're coming back. I promise. Nothing is going to keep them from you. After Maya left with Xavier the next morning, Elias felt the weight of what he was about to do. He had already crossed lines, breaking and entering illegal surveillance. But what he was planning now was bigger. He was going to expose every single person involved, not just to the FBI, but to the world. He spent the next week compiling the evidence, everything he had gathered, legal and illegal. He organized into a comprehensive document. Names, dates, evidence of crimes, connections between conspirators. It was 100 pages of damning testimony. Then he sent it to every journalist he had been in contact with, to every news outlet in the state, to several national publications. Subject: The Children's Grave Conspiracy. How the mountain elite used a torture camp to silence their own children. The response was immediate. Within hours, journalists were calling him. Within a day, the story was on the national news. Within a week, it was everywhere. The public reaction was visceral. Protests outside Arthur's house. Death threats against everyone involved. The state senator resigned. The CEO was fired. The businessman's properties were vandalized. And Arthur's lawyers called again. Desperate this time. Mr. Vane, please, if you would just agree to meet with my client. He wants to confess, tell you everything. He's willing to testify against the others if you'll just talk to him. Elias paused. Why does he want to talk to me specifically? He says, you're the only one who will understand that you're a soldier, that you know that sometimes people do terrible things for what they believe are good reasons. There is no good reason to murder children. Just meet with him. One conversation. If you still want him to rot in prison after that, fine. But give him a chance to explain himself. Elias thought about it. He didn't want to give Arthur anything. But maybe, just maybe, there was information Arthur could provide that would help ensure everyone went down. Fine. One conversation. In the FBI office. With agents present. Tomorrow. Thank you, Mr. Vane. Yeah, the meeting was surreal. Arthur Sterling sat across from Elias in an interrogation room, looking like he had aged 20 years in the last month. His expensive suit hung loose on a body that had lost weight. His hands were shaking slightly. Moreno and Agent Lowry were there, recording everything. Thank you for coming, Arthur said. His voice was raspy. Don't thank me. I'm here to watch you confess. I will. I'll tell them everything. But first, I want you to understand something. I'm not a monster. I was trying to help people. Elias's jaw tightened, helping them murder their children. Helping them solve problems. These weren't just any kids, Mr. Vane. They were troubled. Dangerous, even. They knew things that could destroy families, careers, lives. Their parents came to me desperate, and I provided a solution. You provided a death sentence. Not always. Most of the kids survived. They went through the program, learned discipline, and came out better. The ones who died, those were accidents. Eudora was supposed to be careful, but she overstepped. She overstepped? Elias slammed his hand on the table. She buried children alive. She starved them. She beat them. I know. And I should have stopped it. But by the time I realized how far she had gone, I was too deep in. The parents, they were powerful people. They would have destroyed me if I had exposed them. So you let it continue. You let more children die to save yourself. Arthur's face crumbled. I made a mistake. I was weak, scared, and greedy. And I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Regret doesn't bring those children back. I know. That's why I want to testify. I'll tell the FBI everything. Who was involved? Who knew what? Who paid for the permanent solutions? All of it. I'll make sure every one of them goes down. In exchange for what? Reduced sentence, protective custody. I'm a judge, Mr. Vane. I know what happens to people like me in general population. Elias looked at Moreno. Is this deal on the table? Depends on what he gives us. If his information leads to convictions of the others, we might recommend a reduced sentence. Elias turned back to Arthur. How many children died? 7 that I know of for sure, but there might be more. Eudora kept some records off the books. Where are those records? Buried. Literally. On the property. There's a shed in the back, under the floorboards. Moreno was already on his phone. Send a team back to the Sterling property. Northwest shed. Pull up the floorboards. Elias stared at Arthur. You knew there were more bodies, and you didn't tell anyone. I was afraid. You're pathetic. You're a coward who let children die to protect himself. You don't deserve a deal. You deserve to rot. Please, Mr. Vane, I have a conscience. I live with this every day. You know what Maya lives with every day? Nightmares. Fear. The memory of standing in a hole in the freezing cold, thinking she was going to die. You did that. You and your sister, and all your wealthy clients who valued their secrets more than the lives of their children. Elias stood up. Give the FBI everything. Every name. Every detail. Maybe that'll buy you a few fewer years on your sentence. But nothing is going to buy you redemption. You're going to die knowing you murdered children. He walked out. Moreno caught up with him in the hallway. That was tough. It was honest. Elias took a breath. Did you get what you needed? Yeah. He's giving us names we didn't have. With his testimony, we can prosecute at least a dozen more people. This is going to be huge, Elias. Good. Make sure it is. Make sure everyone knows what these people did. Over the next month, the arrests continued. The state senator, the CEO, the businessman, 3 more parents who had paid for permanent solutions, a doctor who had falsified death certificates, 2 police officers who had covered up investigations. The media coverage was relentless. Every day brought new revelations. The public was horrified and outraged. Politicians called for reform. Child welfare organizations demanded investigations. And through it all, Elias waited in Montana, with Maya and Xavier, watching from a distance as the conspiracy collapsed. When can we go home? Maya asked one night, sitting by the fireplace in the Montana ranch house. Soon, baby. When it's safe. Will it ever be safe? Elias pulled her into a hug. Yes, because all the bad people are going to prison, and they're never going to be able to hurt anyone again. Do you promise? I promise. But that night, after Maya had fallen asleep, Elias received a call from Moreno. We have a problem. What kind of problem? 2 of the parents we arrested. They skipped bail. Harrison Thorne and Bennett Prescott Sr. Both very wealthy, both very connected, and both have disappeared. Elias felt a cold dread. Disappeared? Fled the country, we think. Interpol is looking for them. But Elias, Moreno paused. These guys know you were the one who exposed them. They know Maya is the witness who started this whole thing. I think they might try to retaliate. Let them try. I'm serious. These are desperate men with nothing left to lose. You need to stay in Montana until we catch them. How long could that take? Days, weeks, maybe months if they're smart. Elias looked at the door to Maya's room. He had promised her they would go home soon. But home wasn't safe. Not yet. I'll stay. But Moreno, find those men. Find them and bring them back. We will. But 3 weeks passed with no sign of Thorne or Prescott. Maya was getting restless, missing her friends and her school. Elias was going stir-crazy, unable to do anything but wait. Then Xavier came to him with news. "I've been doing some digging. Off the books. I found something." "What?" "Thorne and Prescott didn't flee to Europe or South America. They're still in the country. And I think I know where." "Where?" "Thorne's family has a property in remote Alaska, off the grid. Perfect place to hide out while their lawyers work on getting the charges dropped." "The charges aren't going to be dropped." "No, but their lawyers are good. They could drag it out for years. In the meantime, they're living free in the wilderness." Elias felt the anger rising. "That isn't justice." "No, it isn't." They looked at each other. An understanding passed between them. "If someone were to find them," Elias said slowly, "someone who wasn't bound by FBI jurisdiction or legal restrictions, someone who could persuade them to turn themselves in." "Hypothetically?" "Yeah. Hypothetically, that person would need to be very careful. These guys are dangerous. That person is a ranger. Dangerous is their specialty." Xavier smiled. "When do we leave?" "Tomorrow. But Maya stays here." They flew to Alaska. Then they took a bush plane into the remote region where Thorne's property was located. The pilot dropped them 10 miles from the coordinates Xavier had found. "You guys sure about this?" the pilot asked. "We're sure. Pick us up here in 3 days." The hike was brutal. Thick forest, mountains, rivers. But Elias had done worse in Afghanistan. This was just another mission. They found the property on the second day. A large cabin by a lake, solar panels on the roof, smoke rising from the chimney. 2 vehicles parked outside. "They're here," Xavier confirmed, looking through binoculars. Elias studied the terrain. "We move in tonight. Non-lethal. We secure them. Call Moreno. Wait for extraction. And if they resist, then we make them not resist." They waited until 2 in the morning. The cabin was dark. Elias and Xavier approached from different angles, using night vision goggles. The doors were unlocked. These men felt safe out here, far from the law. Elias entered first, moving silently. He found Thorne in a bedroom, asleep. A quick move, and Thorne was on his stomach, hands bound behind his back. "What? Who are—" "Shut up!" Elias's voice was cold. "Make a sound, and I'll knock you out." Thorne went quiet. Xavier had Prescott in the living room, similarly secured. They sat the 2 men on the sofa. "Do you know who we are?" Elias asked. "You're Vane," Prescott said, the soldier. "You're the one who ruined everything. I'm the one who exposed you for murdering your children." "That isn't true. We didn't murder anyone." "Yes, you did. You sent your kids to be tortured and killed because they knew your secrets. Because you valued your reputations more than their lives." Thorne spoke up. "My son, he was going to destroy me. He found evidence of my affairs, my financial crimes. He was going to report me. I had no choice." "There's always a choice." Elias leaned in close. "You chose wrong, and now you're going to pay for it. You can't prove anything. Our lawyers will get us out." "I don't need to prove anything. The FBI has Arthur's testimony. They have the financial records. They have the bodies. You're going to prison for the rest of your lives." "We'll see about that," Prescott said. "We have resources, friends in high places." "Not anymore. They're all abandoning you. The senator already pleaded guilty. The CEO is cooperating. Your friends are rats fleeing a sinking ship." Elias pulled out a satellite phone. "Now you're going to make a choice. You can surrender voluntarily and maybe get a deal. Or I can drag you back in handcuffs. Either way, you're going back." "And if we refuse?" Thorne asked. Elias smiled. It was the same smile he had given enemy combatants who thought they were tough. Then I'll make you wish you had never run. I'm not a cop. I'm not bound by the same rules. And I really, really don't like you. He let that sink in. Then he added, but here's the thing. I don't want to hurt you. I want you to face justice. I want you to sit in that trial and be convicted and spend the rest of your lives thinking about what you did. That's the real punishment. That's what you deserve. Thorne and Prescott looked at each other. Then Thorne said, what kind of deal? Testify against every person involved, every name, every crime, every detail. In exchange, maybe they give you 20 years instead of life. That isn't much of a deal. It's more than you deserve. It's more than your children got. Silence. Then Prescott nodded. Fine. We'll surrender. But we want it in writing. Call Moreno yourselves. Tell him where you are. He'll arrange the transport and a plea agreement. Elias handed Prescott the satellite phone. He watched as the call was made. He watched as these two men, who had thought they were above the law, surrendered. The FBI extracted them 2 days later. Elias and Xavier watched from a distance as the helicopters carried Thorne and Prescott away. Mission accomplished? Xavier asked. Not yet. Not until every single one of them is convicted and locked away. You know, not everyone will go to prison. Good lawyers, technicalities, deals. Then I'll make sure they suffer in other ways. These people destroyed Maya's childhood. They murdered children. They aren't going to just walk away. They flew back to Montana. Maya was waiting. She ran into Elias's arms. I missed you, Daddy. I missed you too, baby. So much. Can we go home now? Elias looked at Xavier, who nodded. The immediate threat was gone. Thorne and Prescott were in custody. The others were too scared or too broke to run. Yes, we can go home. They returned to their house a week later. The house felt empty without Sasha, but Maya didn't seem to mind. She was just happy to be back in her own room with her own things. Elias enrolled her in a new school, further from town. A fresh start. New friends who didn't know about the scandal. Therapy twice a week to help her process the trauma. And slowly, painfully, they built a new life. The trial began 6 months after Maya's rescue. Eudora went first. The prosecution presented a devastating case. Physical evidence from the graves. Testimony from surviving children. Financial records proving it was a criminal enterprise. Eudora's defense tried to claim she was helping troubled children, that the deaths were accidental, that she had been pressured by her brother Arthur. The jury didn't buy it. Guilty on all counts. 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Arthur's trial was next. His lawyers tried to paint him as a victim of his sister's manipulation. But with his own testimony about arranging permanent solutions, it was futile. Guilty. Life sentence, no parole. Phyllis Vance got 20 years for conspiracy and obstruction. Carlos Reed, the deputy, got 15. Christina Vance, the supervisor, got 10. Sasha's trial was the hardest for Elias to watch. She looked small and broken on the stand, crying as she described how she had been desperate for money, how she had believed her mother's lies about helping kids. The prosecutor was not sympathetic. He showed the jury recordings of Sasha promoting the program to parents. He described the $100,000 she had earned. He detailed the suffering of the children she had sent. Maya didn't attend the trial. She was too young, and the lawyers agreed her video deposition was enough. But Elias was there every day, watching his daughter's mother being convicted of conspiracy to commit child abuse. 5 years. She'd serve at least 3 before being eligible for parole. The trials of the other parents dragged on for another year. Thorne and Prescott, true to their word, testified against everyone. The state senator got life. The CEO got 30 years. The businessman got 25. In total, 23 people were convicted for their involvement in the New Horizons conspiracy. Hundreds of years of a prison time. Millions in restitution to the victims' families. But for Elias, the real victory was seeing Maya heal. Slowly, the nightmares faded. She started to smile again, to make jokes, to play with friends. She was still affected by what had happened. She likely always would be, but she was surviving, thriving. 2 years after the rescue, Elias was sitting in family court for the final hearing. The judge, a woman who had reviewed all the evidence, all the testimony, looked at him and Maya. "Mr. Vane, you have done an admirable job raising your daughter under extremely difficult circumstances. The court finds that you are a fit and loving father. Sasha Vane's parental rights are permanently terminated. Full custody is awarded to you." Maya squeezed his hand. "Does that mean Mommy can't take me back? Ever?" "Ever," Elias said. "You're mine forever." That night, they had a quiet celebration at home. Pizza, ice cream, a movie. Just the two of them, as it had been for 2 years. "Daddy?" Maya asked during the movie. "Yeah, baby? Thank you for saving me." Elias pulled her into a hug. "You don't have to thank me. That's what daddies are for." "Not all daddies. Some of those kids, their daddies were the bad guys." "I know. And I'm sorry they didn't have someone to protect them. But you made sure the bad guys were punished. You made sure they couldn't hurt anyone else." "I tried." "You did more than try. You won." Elias thought about that. He had won, yes. But at what cost? His marriage was over. His daughter was traumatized. Families had been destroyed. Lives had been lost. But Maya was alive. She was healing. She was safe. And the people who had hurt her were locked away forever. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that was victory. 5 years later, Elias was in the backyard of their new house, a smaller place in a better neighborhood, closer to Maya's school. She was 12 years old now, tall and confident, captain of her soccer team. The nightmares were rare. Therapy had worked. She was going to be okay. Marcus Reed came over for a barbecue, as he did every month or so. They had become close friends. Marcus had retired from the force, citing disillusionment with the system that had allowed the Sterlings to operate for so long. "How is she?" Marcus asked, watching Maya play with the neighbor's dog. "She's great. Straight A's, lots of friends, happy. You'd never know, but you know." "Yeah, I know." Elias flipped a burger. "I got a letter from Sasha last week." "What did she say?" "That she says sorry. That she's been sober for 2 years. That she wants to see Maya when she gets out." "When is that?" "Next year, if she gets parole." "What are you going to tell her?" "I'm going to tell Maya. Let her decide. She's old enough now to make that call." Marcus nodded. That's fair." They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Marcus said, "You know, I think about those kids sometimes. The ones who didn't make it. Caitlin, Jaden, the others. I wonder what they'd be doing now if they'd lived." "Me too." "You did good, Elias. You made sure their deaths meant something. You made sure no one could ignore what happened. Doesn't bring them back, does it? But it stopped it from happening to more kids. That's worth something." Elias looked at his daughter, laughing, healthy, alive. "Yeah, it is." That night, After Marcus had left and Maya was asleep, Elias sat on the porch with a beer, thinking about the last 5 years. The trials, the convictions, the slow rebuilding of their lives. He thought about Eudora, rotting in a maximum security prison. About Arthur, who had been attacked by other inmates and lost the use of his left eye. About Sasha, who had written monthly letters that Elias rarely answered. He thought about the parents who had sent their children to die. Some were in prison. Some had lost everything, even without a conviction. All would carry the shame for the rest of their lives. And he thought about the children, the 7 who had died, the dozens who had survived but were scarred, Maya, who had been hours away from becoming another statistic. Justice had been served. The guilty had been punished. The conspiracy had been exposed and destroyed. But Elias knew the truth. This would happen again. Somewhere else, different names, different place, the same evil. People who valued money and power over the lives of children. People who thought they were untouchable. His job was to make sure Maya was ready for a world like that. To teach her to be strong, to be smart, to fight back against evil in all its forms. She was already well on her way. Intelligent, tough, compassionate. She volunteered at a children's shelter now, helping kids who had been through trauma. She said it helped her process her own experiences. Elias was proud of her. Prouder than he had been of anything he had achieved in the army. His phone buzzed. A message from Xavier. Did you see the news? Another case of child abuse down south. Something very similar. Thought you should know. Elias looked at the message for a long time. Then he typed it back. Send me the details. Because justice never ended. Evil was never completely defeated. But someone had to stand against it. Someone had to fight for the children who couldn't fight for themselves. And Elias Vane would always be that someone. He had proven it once. He would do it again if he had to. For Maya, for Caitlin, for every child who deserved better than what the world had given them. He had won this battle. He would win the next one too. He always did. I'm really glad you're here and that I could share my story with you. If you liked it, show me by liking the video and subscribing to my channel. Let's see how many of us there are. Write in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is. I'm so curious to know where all you wonderful people are tuning in from. If you want to support me a little extra, you can also send a small donation. I share new life stories for you every single day. And now, 2 of my most popular stories will pop up on the screen, so you can choose what to watch next.